Welcome, listeners, to a night of mystery, suspense, sci-fi, and romance. This is the Two-Timer series Collective, a collection created by D.B. Watson, writer of the Two-Timer series, available on Amazon and Kindle Villa. In this program, you will hear a different tale once a week, read by me, A.J. Carter. If you enjoy any of these stories, please leave a like and a comment. If you'd like a story and want to read more, leave a comment and DB might grant your wish. They would love to hear from you. You can email them at fakesubmite@gmail.com or visit their website and see all their titles. Chance. When the blast came, no one on the ship Moor-door saw it coming.
"Status report!"
shouted Captain Luma over the blaring alarm and small explosions while she stood on the bridge. Milo has been appointed the duty of giving said status and turned to Luma, confused by her cluelessness on the situation that was before them.
"Well, we're fucked! Can you be more specific?"
Luma asked, stepping past a burning control panel. Milo looked around, taking in the failing vessel.
"Okay, the deck below us is now floating out in space, systems are shutting down, life support is failing, and..."
She checked a loud beeping that gave her a headache, then continued.
"Oh, and now we're being boarded by flesh-eating Ravishers! I like those odds! All crew members rally at the escape pods! Poe, I'll meet you there! But Mom, who will guide the ship? Poe, get to the pod now!"
When he didn't answer back, Luma called again.
"Poe, answer me! He can't!"
said Milo.
"Communications have been cut!"
Luma froze as Milo saw a vibrant glow bounce off her. It traveled up to the cockpit, snatching Poe from the control board, teleporting him to a waiting pod, and launching him from the ship. Poe watched in horror as the ship he called home broke apart while the Ravishers fired missiles relentlessly. He tried to take control of the small vessel to return to his family to fight when the Ravishers took control of the sphere-shaped pod with a tractor beam and opened a portal in front of him, hurling him into it. Poe's escape pod traveled through space uncontrollably, considering the coordinates were never set. Poe had no clue of his destination point because the autopilot was locked. Poe tried to gain some control but failed. He knew his next move was reckless. Being a self-trained pilot, Poe detested being the passenger. He butt-kicked the control board until it started to malfunction. The act caused his pod to jump out of the portal, get dragged into a gravitational pull, and plummet toward a blue planet. Once in the atmosphere, the pod hurled downward towards a cluster of trees. Poe braced himself for impact. When his ship touched the tree line, a few branches snapped, slowing his descent and causing his ship to come to an abrupt halt. Poe was jerked forward out of his seat just as the door to his pod opened, sending him falling. Poe tried to focus to slow his fall. It was all happening too fast for him. He managed to avoid hitting thick tree limbs when he saw him, oblivious to what was coming toward him. He was sitting on a strange four-legged animal Poe didn't recognize from his many encounters with wildlife. Poe tried to avoid him, but then the man looked up. Unable to explain it, Poe lost his concentration and made contact. Poe landed, straddling the unnamed animal, facing the rider, grabbing hold of the stunned man, unsure of what he would do to him when the animal, he was now sharing, started to back up and thrash around, tossing them off his back and sending them down a jagged granite staircase. Poe saw the steps and knew the man wouldn't be able to endure them. Only the man covered his head in the act of protecting him, which startled Poe, who increased his aura outward, protecting them while they bounced off the stone steps and broke a statue on the way down. Poe and his companion landed at the bottom, rolling before they stopped. The leaves and dirt settled when Poe saw their journey was over. He looked up, finding he was lying beside the unconscious man with his head on his chest. Poe jumped back, moving away from the still body in fear. He got to his feet to run into the woods to hide, but stopped. He looked back and remembered the man did try to protect him. Poe needed to be sure he was all right before leaving. He moved to him and scanned his body and head for any injuries with his eyes that turned several shades of green. He's fine, just the wind knocked out of him, he thought. Poe stood to leave, then heard something. He looked back up the stairs and saw the animal the man was on, He must be worried about you, he thought. I can't just leave him out here alone. I'll wait until he awakes, then I'll leave. Simon enjoyed a brisk ride through the woods on his favorite horse, Thespian, unaware that something was plunging towards them. Simon enjoyed his solitude when twigs started raining down on him. He assumed at first it was just old twigs falling, but then he heard something getting closer. When he looked up, he didn't expect what was coming toward him. On first look, he was younger, slimmer, speaking what sounded like gibberish, flinging down the limbs like a cat on a bullet coming right at him. Simon watched as the face came into view. His instinct to survive left him when the body came in contact with his. The new weight on Thespian's back and Simon's raised voice startled the horse. His hooves tried to keep them balanced, but the second crying voice confused him, causing him to back up and buck his forelegs up, flinging the foreign body from his back, including his owner. Simon felt the body that collided with him, but felt no weight to him. He was as light as a small child, and his eyes were the color of purple, blue, or turquoise that kept changing when they began to fall. Simon saw the immediate danger only for some motivation. He desired to protect the stranger from getting hurt by covering his head with his arms, shielding it from impact with the hard ground. Only when they struck what Simon thought would be a hard surface, instead was a smooth, yielding surface that discharged sparks. Simon tried to keep his head covered, but the intensity was too great, causing him to black out. Simon shifted when he felt a nudge on his face. He slowly opened his eyes to see his horse, Thespian, looking at him. He reached up, patting his nose, then realized he was lying on his back. Simon slowly sat up and looked around when his hand bumped something beside him.
Whoa!
He jerked back, seeing the man who fell from the trees. Simon stared at him, wondering if he was dead. Then he noticed the man curled up on his side, fast asleep. Simon noted the sun had gone down, and the air turned chilly. The stranger's clothes were odd-looking and not suited for the cold weather. Thespian nudged his owner from behind. Simon got to his feet and looked around, seeing no one else. He considered leaving, but changed his mind. I can't leave him here. He might freeze, he thought. He stooped down and gathered him into his arms. To Simon's surprise, the body was as light as a baby. How can this be? He wondered. No time to worry about that. He held the man with one arm while he mounted his horse. When he got him settled, the horse calmed. He glimpsed around once more. Where did you come from? He asked the sleeping body. Simon wished he had never asked when the thunderclap of breaking limbs echoed around him. The pod fell through the branches and landed with a thud on the ground. Thank you for listening. This is a short story by D.B. Watson and read by A.J. Carter. You can find D.B. Watson at her website, twotimers.squarespace.com, and on amazon.com. If you would like to hire me, A.J. Carter, to narrate your project, you can find me on aj.cartervo@gmail.com. Thank you, and see you next week.